Hey guys, I'm back. My hubby had a little bit of a flat with his wheelchair cushion, so I thought I'd use this as an excuse to show you all how to air up a ROHO cushion. First, I want to start by showing you that there are a couple of different versions. So this is just kind of the standard ROHO cushion. It's one giant chamber, so if it goes flat, the whole thing goes flat. And then this one that I use, and I actually really like it because of this, is the ROHO Quattro. And I like this one because if one corner goes flat, like this one is flat right here, it doesn't necessarily affect the rest of the cushion. And so before I even get into showing you how, if you do try this and it doesn't work, there may be another issue going on. There may be a leak near your valve, which may not be able to be repaired. There may be a tear somewhere that may be too big to be repaired. And actually, tears around the valve can be common for either cushion. And so you'll see that they're a little bit different. This one is, since the whole thing is one big cushion and it's not separated into sections like the Quattro, again, if it goes flat, the whole thing goes flat. But they both sometimes will have the issue of ripping really, really close to the valve. Sometimes that can be repaired, sometimes it can't, but it's always worth a shot. So again, if you get into it and you just can't figure it out, what you can do, and this is the same for both, if you look on the bottom of your cushion, there's going to be a couple of stickers. You know, this black sticker, and this one just kind of just gives you like details on what not to do to your cushion. And then this one is the one that you want to go for though. This one's going to have a white label. It's going to have your model number and your cushion size. It has your serial number and the barcodes and everything. So what you would do is you contact ROHO. As long as it's within warranty, you can get it replaced, and they're usually pretty fast. They usually come within 24 to 48 hours, sometimes a little bit longer. It really depends on the circumstance. I had a flat that was actually caused by an airline one time, and they were able to get me one within 24 hours. One thing I would suggest is to have a backup cushion, because a flat can happen at any point. So when you go to order a wheelchair in general, have them put in an order for an extra cushion, because you have to have it. If you don't have a cushion, you could end up with pressure sores, and that's a whole other thing that you don't really want to deal with as a wheelchair user. So I'm gonna actually get out of my chair so you can see exactly what I'm doing. But basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna fill up a tub of water, a bathtub, just something that can hold water deep enough to submerge the entire cushion. So I'm actually going to use the bathtub just because it's just going to be the easiest for me to actually show you. And it works a lot like what I did with the wheelchair tires when I showed you how to replace those. And actually, it uses the same patches that I showed you in the last video. These patches are called the Super Patch Kit by Part Tool. I'll put the information for these in the description of the video. But they're the same. That's the best part about these, is you can use them for your tires or your cushion. That's why I recommend these personally. But before I get into the submerging, because I already know that these are flat and need to be patched, I wanted to show you this. So the first thing, before you ever even bother trying to get into submerging the cushion, your cushions should come with this, and it's a pump, and it has a flexible tip. And you just attach it. What you do is you have this end on this cushion, and you just twist it whichever direction. It's a lefty-loosey. Again, you know, I'm an adult. I love to use the lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. But yeah, you just loosen it up, and then you stick the end of the pump on, and you just pump it like that. And you'll be able to tell it on this one, it's trying. You can see the chambers start to fill up with air. And that's how you're gonna know. When you submerge it into the water, it'll create an air bubble wherever there's a leak. So that's why I recommend doing it this way. There are other ways, but this is just one of the faster ways to do it. But okay, so I mean, this one's pretty flat. I'm gonna fill up the bathtub with water, and then we're gonna submerge this. And actually, before you submerge it into water though, you wanna make sure that if you have tried to air it up and it doesn't air up, that you close the valve again, because otherwise it's not gonna fill up and you're not gonna know. So just make sure that that valve is good and closed again. Don't do it too tight. You don't wanna put more pressure on the valve than you have to, because you could accidentally rip it if you're trying to mess with it too much. So you don't wanna create a bigger problem. I'm gonna get out of my chair and I'm gonna reposition and show you guys. Okay, so I probably should have already had the camera rolling because you all missed a pretty funny moment. Make sure that you close the stopper and don't accidentally turn your shower on instead. I about soaked myself for starters. You can do it the way that I'm doing it. You can, if you don't have good balance, which I have really good balance, if this doesn't work, and I wouldn't recommend this necessarily for everyone, you can sit on the floor. You can get a big tub of water that's big enough to, as long as it's big enough for the whole cushion to fit in and it completely covers it, you're good. I'm just doing it this way because this is just what's easiest for me. And I'm gonna fill up the tub and show you how to do this. Okay, I think I've got my tub filled up enough now. So I'm gonna submerge the cushion completely into the tub. And what will happen is that, one thing, it floats, which I just learned by putting it completely in a tub. But you want to try to go ahead and get it aired up as much as you can, because it'll help the bubbles form a little bit faster. Obviously, if you've got a flat cushion, it's not going to hold air for very long, but you'll want to push it down under the water. It's floating. It's just going to float back up. So you'll see a trail of bubbles, apparently. Okay, so first of all, if you've never done this, which I can admit I've never done this before, this is not as easy as you think it's going to be if you've never done it. So I don't see bubbles. So we stopped for a minute because I was having trouble, but sometimes you have to pull the bubbles back to figure it out, but you do it while it's underwater. I just wanted to show you that they do, especially when they're flat, they have a lot of flexibility. So I'm going to resubmerge this and hopefully, so I think I've figured out where it is. So like I said, you're going to want to push the each of the bubbles around till you figure it out. Okay, hopefully you can see that now. You can maybe even hear it if my camera is good enough, but you'll see that there's bubbles. So now we know that the hole is somewhere right in this area. And actually it looks like there may be a couple of holes because when I push around. So now that we've pretty much figured out the area that the hole is in, I'm gonna patch it up. I just wanted to reposition this again because I wanted you to see it up close so you can see exactly what I'm talking about when I say that you'll see bubbles. So I've figured out already that it's somewhere around this bubble or this part of the cushion. So you'll see little bubbles, but you'll see in just a second. Okay, so you'll see all those bubbles just came out. That means that probably the tear is going to be in this little corner. So I'm going to pull it out of the water and we're going to put a patch on it. Okay, now that I found where the hole is in the cushion, I'm going to dry the cushion off, and I'm actually going to use a Sharpie to kind of put a little dot or an X or whatever where it is. That way when I go to put the patch on, I know where to put the patch. And I will warn you, this took me a little bit because I've never actually done this before. Be patient, it might take a while. This is a learning curve for me. So, you know, you do have to do a pretty good amount of pressure on the bubble, each of the bubbles to figure out which one. You do want to move the bubbles, or the bubbles, sorry, when I say bubbles, I mean the bubbles of the cushion, these, pretty far, and you want to give them a pretty good amount of pressure so that you can create the bubbles. So again, you've got a lot of bubbles in the cushions that might take a little while depending on where it is. But I will say that that's why I actually like the ROHO Quattro, because it actually kind of does some of the guesswork for you right off the bat, because it's sectioned into 4 sections. So you automatically know if there's an area that's flat, then that's what you can focus on right then. Whereas this one, it's the whole thing and it takes a little bit longer. But yeah, but other than that, the process is exactly the same. Except for the valve, how to close off the valve. There is an extra step actually. I'll show you that before I go and actually patch this up. So the biggest difference, again, like I said, is the locking mechanism for the quadrants. So pretty much all the time, you're gonna want it to be pushed to where the red side is pushed in, and to change it from open. So if it's pushed all the way in on this side, that means it's open, which means air can flow. That's the only time you'll really want it to be pushed in on the green side, is when you're trying to get adjusted and you're trying to let air flow around and move and get in. But once you have it, you know, patched up, aired up, you're gonna wanna flip it back to this so it's closed, because otherwise, as soon as you get positioned, it's just gonna let all the air back out. But keep in mind that this is actually just like the standard ROHO. It has this is where you put the air in on both. So that's exactly the same. This is just different because of the pressure. And that's why I like it, because of my hip. My hip is weak on one side. And so I actually like having the different pressures in the different quadrants for myself personally. Again, it's a preference thing. That's why it's really good to try out a whole bunch of different things. I used to have the standard ROHO, and I do like it. You do have this as an extra thing to have to worry about. These can rip, so that isn't a disadvantage. But for the most part, I really like this one, but this is good too. So again, it's all about your needs and what works for you, what feels good for you, comfortable for you, to help prevent pressure sores and stuff like that. So before I patch it up, you can see it's still kind of dripping with water. You want to make sure that it's dry, like completely dry, before you patch it, because if it's still wet, it might not create a good seal. And yeah, so I'm gonna finish up this and then I'll get to the patch itself. But I know my videos are always really thorough, and I've never done this, so yeah, it was just time. So I'm gonna finish drying this out. I'm actually gonna drain the tub. I'm gonna get my chair, and then I'll show you all how to do the patch itself. Okay, so actually, as I've laid this flat on the table, and now that I kind of have a better idea of where it was, as soon as I pulled this back, I can actually see there's a tiny little pinhole. Again, make sure it's good and dried off. And actually, like I said, so I don't have to keep trying to find my place, because I lost it again. I'm gonna put a little X right here. So that kind of helps me find it. Right here, right, and it's actually like right above that X is where we're gonna be patching. So that actually just gives me an easier visual. Okay, so now that I've marked my cushion, to make it easier to find, again, if you use white instead of black, it's a little easier to find your mark. Get your patches, and there's going to be instruction in this pack. It's the English instructions are in blue. There's other languages as well. There's going to be a tiny little square sandpaper, and what you're going to do is find your spot, and it says to just rough it up again. So again, if you watched my changing out the wheelchair tire video, you'll see that it's the same process. But so I rough it up a little bit. Now I'm going to take one of the patches, and it even said, like, it gives you instructions in the little box. It says clean and lightly rough tube, peel off backing, press patch on tube. So that's what we're going to do. And you want to make sure that you try to not get it all wrinkled up and everything, because that's going to make it harder for the patch to stick. But you just kind of want to lay it over the hole. And like I said, just make sure that it's good and pressed down. So you'll see now where I put the patch. Hopefully, that's all we need to do. We shall find out if there are other holes. I am gonna grab my pump. Okay, so again, remember that your valve should have been closed, because that's how you figure out where the air was leaking. You wanna open it back up. Again, try not to pull it too any harder than you have to, because again, that can actually create another hole. So you want to open it, put the pump back on, leave it open, and you do want to be careful not to overfill it too. If you do, you just on this one you just open it back up just a little bit, and you'll notice as you're pumping it up, you'll hear air moving around. That could just mean that the air is just trying to settle into the different bubbles, but it could also mean that you may have another hole. So if you notice that as you're pumping it up that the air's not staying in, that could be what's going on. So kind of you can actually twist it closed with the pump still on it and pull it off, because otherwise your air is going to start to leak out more. But yeah, if you notice that it's that the air is leaking out still, that means you probably have another hole, or the valve could be damaged as well. But yeah, like I said, there are warranties on all of these, so if you get into this and it doesn't work, you can't figure it out, you get on the site, you make sure you have your cushion ready, so when you talk to them, you can get them all the information that they need, and hopefully it's under warranty. And if not, they should be able to tell you what you need to do to get a new cushion. Again, usually you just go through your doctor or your seating clinic. And yeah, it's actually a pretty easy process for replacing them all together if you don't want to do all of this. But I actually kind of wanted to do this for myself and figure it out, just to say that I can. Anyway, hope you guys are having a great week. I will see you all soon. Bye.